Welcome to Slash Forward. In this episode, we're going to go on a pleasing Greek holiday and hope we don't end up with our guts in our mouths, as detailed in the 1980 film Anthropophagus. For more cautionary tales about the downfalls of feasting on human flesh, please subscribe to the channel. Let's get to it. We open on a cactus patch and break our damn necks, zooming out to a beautiful building. As the credits roll, we watch a young couple wander about a picturesque ocean village of white marble. This fine German couple trawls the beach in their genuine Wrangler blue jeans until they find a rock and begin stripping down before venturing into the ice-cold waters. Bruno rocks the shit out in a classic beach look: cowboy boots, dungarees, huge cans, while Ilsa floats out to an abandoned boat, slapping against the rocks. She reaches the vessel but is intercepted before getting a chance to inspect it and is dragged under the water, where she's turned into a cloudy plume of blood. But this is no shy beast. It comes to the shoreline, staining the brown sand red, and then depositing its cleaver straight into fair Bruno's brain matter. We then cut to a sky trolley where we learn Maggie is not feeling well due to her pregnancy. This group of friends is traveling to the first stop in their island-hopping vacation adventure, hoping to hit all the spots along the archipelago. But then the outsider Julie pulls a simple grift, getting Danny the ding-dong to break her camera so she can ask for a ride in their boat as repayment. When they arrive at the stop, they all file off and flag down their trip planner, Alan. So happy to be reunited with old friends, everyone gets a gentle neck grab, and the ladies get an extra little kiss. They all pile in and drive off to the command center for orientation. Here, Julie shows them the island she's going to. It's 100 miles offshore with a small, self-sufficient population, so it's rarely traveled and there are no commercial boats that bring people to the island. Enthusiastic about the possibility of having a fun adventure in paradise, they all agree that there would be nothing better in this life or the next than to go to this island with Julie and meet its inhabitants, her friends included among their number. So with the theme of travel stuck hard in our brains, they go from this location to another location, again, the harbor. And with barely any intervening shots, we find ourselves on the open scene, Maggie puking her guts out the whole way while the rest of them relax. Danny turns this into a party cruise, much to Carol's chagrin. Julie's flattered by this attention, but knows Carol is crazy about Danny and she declines to stand in her way. The detailed interpersonal relationships among the group of new friends is explained by Julie to Alan, another total stranger to her. Bored with this nonsense, he decides to show Julie how easy it is to navigate a ship and totally gives up on it. Now in full-on party mode, Carol keeps the good times rolling with some card reading, a distinctly feminine activity apparently. Maggie turns over her cards, but bad news. You're a bitch, and your baby's gonna be ugly. Julie actually steps in here and does her own positive interpretation of the cards, sending Maggie off with the warm fuzzies. And then Carol confides that she froze up because the cards didn't tell her anything, and the cards showing no future usually means something bad is gonna happen very soon. As Julie and Alan continue to warm up to each other, he confides that Carol's been acting a little odd due to Julie's presence. She feels that something is off about the group dynamic and has a general malaise about the thought of traveling to this forsaken island. But no worries.
Carol's a genuine lunatic, has been since she was a kid.
And he's in medical school, so he knows. But also, her behavior is not helping the matter. And this guy, who we've never seen before, spots land. I guess it's a good thing he apparated onto the boat. They dock down and come ashore, resulting in Maggie immediately spraining her ankle on flat ground. The cards were right! Alan, the med student, wishes her well and immediately leaves the area. As they walk inland, we hear heavy breathing coming from somewhere. We then get an identical shot to confirm that this is the cursed island we visited briefly in the opening shots of the film. The whole area appears to be abandoned now, so they split up to go exploring. In the general store, they find the telegraph machine has been vandalized, and the last telegram out was from more than a month ago, which is spooky. Elsewhere, Danny and Carol spy a woman in a window and go to investigate, but she's fairly shy and it looks like she went out to meet them via a different path. But they're prevented from meeting her when obstructed by the mummified remains of a resident. Back at the boat, the skipper goes to change Maggie's ankle water and gets pulled in, somehow. Maggie thinks she hears something, so she goes to look for him, but only finds the bucket. Determined to continue her therapies, she abandons her search to get herself fresh water, and she manages to retrieve the bucket and dip her foot in without seeing the bucket now contains a head. Back at the apartment, they realize now that they're in a demon city, and Arnie is instantly concerned about Maggie being alone on the boat. Except for the skipper though, right? They don't know that he's gone yet. When they get back to the dock, the boat is out in the bay. Alan is quick to write off everything, and he insists that the skipper must have taken it out to deeper waters for protection from the incoming weather. And tomorrow morning, the boat will be back at the dock for sure. They decide here it's time to go search out Julie's friends at their home. Surely, with the rest of the island abandoned, they'll be able to answer some of their burning questions. As they walk off, they completely miss that a guy is dragging Maggie away. When they get to the house, Julie's friends are gone. That is so odd, but all their stuff is still there. So if they went on a trip, it must have been naked and without their wallets. As they work to figure this out, Alan continues to contribute as though he knows the answer to everything.
They could have been frightened by something, run away. No, I've never heard of a virus like that. I think she would have done it already if she'd intended to. No, I don't think we'll be seeing her again.
Well, actually, after a bit, they all settle up to have their dinner, and with it looking like Carol's negative premonitions were confirmed, she feels emboldened to share more about the bad vibrations and evil powers of the island. Great, now we'll never hear the end of it. That night, they all sleep in the living room as the storm pounds the house outside. Julie is restless, so she lights a candle and heads off after hearing a noise in the house. Danny sneaks up on her armed because he also heard a strange noise, and they go off to explore together. Downstairs, they're confronted by a kitty gif, and then a woman pops out of a barrel. She plays a game where she just stabs in front of her, and if you get in the way, it's your own fault. And that's why no one feels bad for Danny. After she's disarmed, we learn this is the daughter of Julie's friends, Rita. After settling everyone in, Alan confirms he has to go for antibiotics that evening or Danny's jaw may seize up. They've all considered the options and just barely decided that it's likely best to try to prevent this. Then Rita gains a bit of coherence again and explains that her parents had been afraid and then were just gone. For how long? She doesn't know. Since she's blind, she's not sure exactly what happened, but can confirm that there's a man who comes around and she always knows when he's there because he reeks of blood. Alan and Arnie run through the woods in search of medicine with knives in hand. Meanwhile, Carol helps dress Danny's wound and decides to shoot her shot.
You'd better try to get some sleep now.
Ow, her heart. And as the village boys find their supplies, Danny fuels up on a snack of oranges and cigarettes before going to find Julie to discuss his feelings and go in for the big one, further turning Carol against her. So she runs off into the woods like a brat, forcing them all into a dangerous situation. She even takes it one step further by sneaking up on Julie and locking her in the cemetery. Julie runs around, eventually finding a wall she can hop, and does so right into the arms of Alan and Arnie, and they escort her back to the house. Danny is disturbed by a noise, but Rita wakes up due to the old familiar smell. So Danny arms himself with a cleaver and goes exploring. To keep Rita from being distressed, he locks her door on the way out, inadvertently locking her in with old Stink Bomb. So when she gets to screaming, he rushes back to save the day, but is easily disarmed and dispatched by their giant assailant. The next morning, we find them wandering the woods again, searching for Carol. Arnie is distraught at the now near certainty that his wife is dead.
Hey, what's the matter, Arnie? Move.
Alan, come on with the painting things in a positive light, bro. He does acknowledge the likelihood of a psycho on the loose, but presumes him to be a disheveled mess and easily killed, so he's not too worried about stumbling across him. They eventually find the magnificent villa of Klaus Wortman, a wealthy inhabitant of the island who met a tragic fate when he was shipwrecked offshore. The specter haunting them appears in his window, and Julie identifies her as his sister, made crazy by the loss of her extended family, and she apparently spends her days now sitting in windowsills and tying knots with rope. They enter thinking this is just the kind of place Carol would go, and as they approach the stairs, the mistress gives them a startling hello. Upstairs, they do find Carol, and she tells them about how Ruth had treated her well. Arnie chimes in to tell Alan something he already knows.
The boat. I knew it.
The boat is back and they have to find a way to reach it. Given what they've all been through, Carol makes amends with Julie and they share a friendly back rub. Then they read Ruth's journal, discovering she had been protecting her brother, Mr. Wortman, by hiding the bodies of his victims and the entrances to his living space. So Julie searches the house while the men find some sweet ruins to explore. Arnie lights up a torch and descends into the catacombs where he finds rats and bodies in various stages of decomposition. He gets in deep, nearly setting his hair on fire, and eventually finds a freshie, which turns out to be Maggie, conscious but barely alive. Back at the house, Julie makes a lucky guess about a hidden entryway and finds the door unlocked. Because why lock a hidden door? Inside, the room is filled with some traditional-ass ghosts, being played for fun by the corpses underneath. As she explores, Wortman returns to his underground stockpile, breathing steam all over. Arnie tries to reason with him, but he is intoxicated by the taste of human flesh. And once it gets in you, that don't go away. Here we get a brief flashback to see the emergency raft. Wortman and his family are baking in the hot sun, and he, so compelled to live at any cost, decides to feast on the flesh of his dead son, but against his wife's wishes. In the struggle, he accidentally deadifies her as well. He's an unfeeling monster now, letting nothing get between him and his precious flesh. And then this corny movie goes in hard as he reaches deep inside of Maggie and pulls out a fresh juice box for consumption. Back at the house, Carol meets up with Julie, who's found another journal, and declares Mr. Wortman to be a raving maniac. She's then surprised to see Carol bleeding all over, now another victim of the madman. Julie runs upstairs with Rita as Mr. Wortman slowly pursues them, lethargic from his diet of pure meat. This gives Julie enough time to get them locked in the attic, hoping he succumbs to ketosis before managing to break in. He doesn't, but he does walk off, leaving them to sit and wait patiently so he can circle around to the roof and grab at them. Since Rita can't see, she's helpless to avoid this and gets pulled through the shingles, scraping her face up pretty good. And then her tender throat meat is feasted upon. Julie tries her best and does manage to ding his shin bone with a pickaxe, which really smarts, causing him to roll off the roof. Julie then stumbles down and looks for him, but gets pulled into the well and just barely avoids falling all the way in. She's left in a fairly vulnerable position but manages to reach the ladder and climb out, although Wortman does have a grasp on the other end of her rope, and he starts tugging on her string. But then Alan shows up just in time to claim credit and splits your boy wide open. Then they all sit around and watch while Wortman, since he doesn't have a fanny pack handy, tries to put his guts back in via the esophagus, but keels over in the process. I have a website set up where you can support the channel through donations or merch. I'd like to take a moment to give a huge thanks to my donors, memorialized in the Hall of Headshots. I never know what to think about these early 80s gore fests. Maybe I'm just getting desensitized, but I feel like my anticipation is a non-stop onslaught of shocking images. I do like a slow build-up with a big payoff like The Brood, and this movie was similar to that in the sense that both included a birth sack in the climax. But still, I like having a little something more to keep me going through the middle of a movie so it doesn't drag. If you enjoyed the video, I'd love for you to become a part of the channel by subscribing. Thanks for watching.